Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is May 7th, 2023, and I am your co host, the Fat Wizard, joined today by.
Alamaxia.
And Lobos.
And today, to celebrate our milestone of 25 Patreon supporters, you know, the one we've been pimping for 2 years now or whatever, we're playing Earthbound on a very special 2-hour long episode. So this is going to be a test of endurance. And I'll tell you, my chair is not super comfy. So I hopefully you two have some very, very comfy chairs
Definitely.
to join us.
I'm ready.
But yeah, so this was released on Super Nintendo in North America, June 5th, 1995. And fact checkers, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think this was released as like Mother 2. Is that right?
I believe
Is
so.
that the name in Japan?
Mm-hmm.
I think something like that. So this was a very, very interesting game for me. I'd never played it before. And so it was very cool to come to this and experience what, because it's kind of like a cult, it's a darling. Everyone that talks about it just will rave about it. And you're like, why is it so special? So Alamaxia, I know that you really enjoyed your time, but I want to hear kind of your thoughts here at the start of the video here.
This is a game that I would not have appreciated when it came out. There is the attention to detail on the details in this game, and the quick summarization of the tropes that happen in RPGs just makes this so special. Your interactions with the people and the environment, and really just how weird the game is.
Super weird. Yeah. How about you, Lobos? What did you think of the game?
I loved it. I had played like half of it before. Okay, maybe not half. I had gotten like, I think like 3 towns in, which is not half. But, I experienced a good amount of it. I love the quirkiness. I don't know if you guys have both played Undertale, but like this reminded me very much. And I'm like, okay, this is where like Undertale got a lot of inspiration and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, I loved it. I loved the combat mechanics. I love the story. I love just almost every character in the game that you talk to had their own personality almost, and it was great. It was good.
Yeah. So I had, again, this is the first time I'd played this game, but I did play a game a long time ago called Contact on the DS, and it reminded me so much of this game to the point of I had to look it up and be like, was this made by the same people? And it wasn't made by the same people, but interestingly enough, I think the reason why Contact was made or something like that was they felt it was very similar to Earthbound in terms of feel. So, yeah, kind of crazy zany stuff. So if you're looking for Earthbound, a game that's like Earthbound, I recommend taking a look at Contact. Not a super great game on the DS, but it's a little bit like this. So let's kind of go down to brass tacks here in the story here, because this story goes places. But Alamaxi, do you want to set us up for what's going on here in the sleepy little village of SMG House is where I named my character SMG.
Well, you wake up as Ness and you go outside and find out that, it's nighttime and police have everything blocked off. There was apparently a meteor that crashed nearby. So you go back home and you try to go to sleep, and now your neighbor Pokey is out here saying, "Hey, I need you to help me find Picky, my brother. He's up, I think he went up where the meteor was." So really, it's just starting out. A meteor crashed, and you're gonna go investigate it.
And this has one of the tropes that I can't get enough, and I think every RPG should start out in your bedroom with like your mom waking you up, or at least your mom in the house. So, you start out in your bed, you wake up, and you get this really cool adventure. There's a couple family members. There's King, which is the dog, and then there is the sister. I don't remember her name. Does anyone have that off the top of their head?
I don't actually.
Yeah, she doesn't play a big part, but it's kind of cool because your whole family loves you. Like your sister likes you and gives you a baseball bat to start off with, and then you can raid her dresser for an ATM card. And it got me thinking, as far as I know, the ATM card is what you use to actually like take money, like get money from the game, right?
Yep.
I'm guessing if you miss that ATM card, can you not get money? Is that anyone have any thoughts on that?
I'm not sure mechanically what happens, but I bet you they gate you before you get it, like in some way, or they just auto give it to you like in another way.
Yep.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be. No, I'm really curious there. So yeah, we go out into the forest, and yeah, there's this really cool meteorite. Maniac Mansion, anyone? And we found Picky and Pokey. Now, what comes out of this meteorite?
A bee.
A bee.
Yeah.
Always the bees.
Yeah. And so this is I guess I can't pinpoint when the game gets weird, but I certainly would say that if you didn't think the game was weird, this is where it gets weird. Because I guess there's this bee is like from the future or something, and talks about this evil called, is it Gygus?
Gygus.
Mm-hmm.
And the bee joins you as a party member, and as you're walking home, you get attacked by all these starmen.
Mm-hmm.
And the bee, I think if you hit the starmen, you'll do like 1 damage with your baseball bat, but the bee is the one that's doing all the damage. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. So here's the starman that you're fighting here.
They do the whole
Seems
thing.
like-
They do the whole thing of like, you know, you're not strong now, but later down the line you start fighting starmen, so you're like, oh, I've gotten so powerful, you know, build you up.
And this is even a Starman Junior. Like later on, you'll be fighting like proper Starmen. So yeah, this is cool. Let's talk a little bit about the combat mechanics. I'm going to call on you, Lobos, to walk us through how combat works.
Yeah, it's kind of typical RPG in the sense that you've got a melee attack, which is usually like bash or shoot if you have like a ranged weapon that you equip, which functions the same as a regular weapon. It's just, I don't know if there is a mechanical difference other than just one says shoot and one says bash. But you've got goods, you can use your items. You do have an auto fight, which I love, auto battling when I can to make things easier. You have the option to run away, and if you have a character that can use spells, psychic abilities, you have a PSI ability, or menu rather, that lets you kind of browse your spells. And there's like offense, recover, like buff. I don't remember what
assist. I think it is
assist, and
which has buffs.
I think there's one more. But I can't remember what the categories all are. But you choose one at a time. It's full turn-based. You choose each member. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. It might be a little advanced for right now, but as you take damage, your health will like kind of spin down, like almost like a slot machine. How it's kind of like or an odometer, but like fast. And while it's spinning, if the combat ends and you've taken damage, it'll just stop at whatever that number was. So you can even if you've taken lethal damage and you finish the battle, you
get a heal spell that hits before it hits 0.
Yeah, that too. You can actually recover in that time or survive in that time. And I was telling Alamaxia that like I both hate and love that because it's cool that you can do that and it's a neat detail. But then also it means that they have enemies later that are designed to like blow up, and then it's like, oh, mash through all the text so I don't lose as much health as I could if I didn't.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm torn on that.
I
But
really
think
love
it's
that
basic.
mechanic.
I do too.
I'm actually surprised that I don't know any other game that has done that. And I'm sure there's probably some out there that do that, but I was like, wow, why don't more games do that? Because it was cool, because especially if you get someone gets hit really, really hard, and now you're like, okay, now I need to quickly make all my decisions for the next round of combat such that I have enough time to heal them. And so you got this like little frantic menu thing going on, and I found that added a nice layer of exhilaration to the combat, because the combat is, I'd say, is pretty kind of by the books. There's a couple cool things, but for the most part you're just hitting bash or casting the occasional spell. So having that, I think it really really kind of spiced up the gameplay a little bit.
Well, one thing I wasn't super fond of is for both the enemies and your party members, the miss rate is pretty high, and that can get annoying. I don't know if it's just I was underleveled in certain cases, but especially depending on equipment you have.
There is a weapon that Ness gets later, kind of mid-game, that has a ton of damage, but has a massive miss rate.
I think it's the Casey bat,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I when I got that, I was like, "What the heck is going on?" Then I looked at the description. And I was like, "Oh, that's nasty."
Yeah.
So.
I tried it for a bit, and it didn't pay off as much. It basically just removed attacks most of the time. So, yeah.
Well, because combat is kind of by the books here, as we get to new areas, we'll just kind of rapid fire and show off some of the monster designs, because that's the most interesting part of combat. Of course, we'll show some bosses, but for the most part, battles just kind of play out the same. So we're going to try to highlight a lot of the story, a lot of the world building, and a lot of the interactions with characters, because I think that's where this game shines. And then, of course, looking at the cool monster design. So, Alamaxia, we're going to go fight a boss here. Do you want to talk about some of the monsters that we're fighting and then, like, what the boss is that we're going to be up against?
Yeah, so right now we're fighting against the Sharks. They're the punks that took over the arcade, and the entire town's afraid of them. Just these, group of kids, punks, and their leader, Frank. So we are going through the arcade right now and trying to get to Frank. So we need to have a nice chat with him.
Mm-hmm.
But Frank has a pretty goofy little friend with him, hiding behind a bush.
And also, do you just want to talk about the monster design on Frank? Because I absolutely adore this.
Just the monster designs in general are, oh god, they're caricatures of everything. Everything in the game is anthropomorphic, or I can't remember it's
anthropomorphized.
Yeah,
we'll go anthropomorphic, right? That's like animal styles.
Yeah. So everything is brought to life.
Mm-hmm. And so Frank is cool because he's just like this sleazeball dude with this leisure suit, pinstripe, and he's holding what looks to be a dagger and an ice pick. And a lot of characters in this game have these smiles that just look disturbing. It's like big red lips, and it looks kind of like a clown. It's like it's literally going like from your eye to your other eye. And so Frank, I think Frank is kind of the first difficulty gate you have in the game. I had to grind a little bit to fight him. And once you beat him, you get to face off against his little tank buddy, Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
That's
Mark
pretty
II.
good.
Yeah.
Mark II. Yeah.
I also died here, I think, a couple of times. That was like the first time I had died. I really like that. Maybe not all the enemies, but a lot of the enemies will have kind of filler moves that don't actually do anything. And like,
oh, I love that.
Yeah. And so it essentially gives you a free turn, but it's also just like, it's quirky. It's like, I don't know. Dog is like, I don't even remember what
just like
specific
howls
ones
or something.
Yeah, dog howls or like, and some of them are just like it's scratching their butt or something like that, and then just they skip their turn, but it's also just funny. It's comedy through the combat.
Yeah, I do know that Dragon Quest, is kind of that's a staple of that series. But I can't remember when they started doing that. Like, I remember like slimes just kind of like, bopping around or falling over during combat. So it is fun. And I agree. It adds to the liveness of it and also gives you a little bit of a breather to heal up or maybe get a free attack in.
Yeah.
I love how uninhibited, how like so many of the NPCs are, like just random ones you'll go talk to and be like, oh, I just farted. Sorry. Like if it smells too bad, you can leave or something. Like, they're not shy. They have no sense of, I don't know, like pride or like, they're just like all
There's
out.
no shame.
Yeah. No shame. There you go.
Nothing to hide.
And a lot of their stuff are just complete non sequiturs. I think one of the towns, there's a guy you talk to. He's like, I don't have any relevant dialogue to this game. It's kind of weird that someone added dialogue to me, huh?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Something to that extent, right?
Fourth wall stuff and just like,
The fourth wall doesn't even exist in this game. This game just lives and breathes between reality. It's great.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about what has happened. So we beat Frank, and the mayor is very excited about that. Or is it the mayor or the police station? One of the two.
It's the mayor.
The mayor, yeah.
Thanks for getting rid of those. Wouldn't let you get back to this little kind of blocked off area until you took
says
care
do
of the
not
sharks.
enter. And he gives you a key, right, to go into that area.
A key and
Yeah.
And other people have been blocked off too. And some of the enemies in here are just mostly animals. I did want to bring up the rats, because the rats, they like don't hit hard at all, but they have a pretty decent chance to crit. And if they crit, then it's like big damage. So you never know when you're gonna get. Sometimes it could be the easiest fight. Sometimes it could be the toughest fight. So.
Yeah. So this city that we're in is Onette, and it is literally like the letter or the number 1. And then 2 T's, and that'll come into play a little bit as we see some of the other towns. But this one, we have encountered the first major boss, I'd say, and you get to them, and it's just like this big star of sorts. And of course, there's going to be 8 of those throughout the game. And when you get those, it's just it's a big boss fight. But they're called sanctuary locations. So much of the game is going to these 8 sanctuary locations, defeating the boss, and then you see some sort of vision, which is maybe about Ness's early life, or maybe like an idealistic memory that he likes to think about, or something like that. But we just beat a big, what would you call it? A roach ant?
Titanic ant. It's Titanic ant.
Titanic ant, yeah. And so as you see, we're leveling up here, and I did read that the level ups are predetermined as opposed to random.
Yeah.
So the only way you can really affect your stats are you can, equip items, and then occasionally there's like a rock that you can eat, like a rock candy you can eat, or some other meals, and that will give you like +1 to your stats. But for the most part, yeah, that's right, the capsules. Yeah, but for the most part, your stats are just what they're going to be, and you just need to level up to really grow your character.
Also, I was just going to say, at each sanctuary, we have an item in our inventory called the Sound Stone, I believe, and you actually record in a sound. It's kind of like a song, but also kind of ambient sound at the same time. And so you're collecting these all every time you visit the sanctuary.
Kind of reminds me of Link's Awakening, how you have to collect all the different sounds.
Yep. And I was going to mention that too. It doesn't go as hard as Link's Awakening. Like, it doesn't at the end play this vast song, but it does have a song, and it kind of cycles through each quote unquote, instrument, like, part of the song. And it's like, okay, cool.
Now, one thing we did talk about the leveling and kind of needing to grind up for some of those bosses. I think this game does a wonderful job with how they progress your leveling through the game. Like, you get to an area and you can get experience so quickly to get up to that area's level, and then experience just kind of trails off. So it's real easy to get caught up in the level, but there's not really enough XP to really take you over the edge too much.
Yeah, and one of the things that's also really nice is when you die, that's not a game over. You're not reloading a save. You basically you keep your progression. You just warp back to the last place you used the phone, which is more or less a save spot. And you can go back to the exact same area and try the boss again, or try to grind out. So that was really nice, because there were some fights I would just eat it hard on and have to grind up a little bit, but I didn't feel like I was losing progress. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're leaving Onette, and do you guys remember the town we're going to next?
We're going to Tucson.
Is it Tucson? Yeah.
Tucson. Yeah, it is Tucson. Yeah. We were gated from going there earlier because the police had blocked it off, but because we basically helped out Onette, we're not going to Tucson. The guards have let us go through. So
Well, we had to fight like half the police force in order to
Oh,
prove
that's
ourselves.
right. Yeah.
And I just remember, I don't remember the exact quote, but one of the, like, it's visceral, but it's funny for some reason. Like, one of the police officers was like, I'm gonna like rip your heart out. You know, something absurd that's just like, what the, like, it catches you off guard, but it's like obviously not serious, so it's like funny in a way. But I don't know, the characters are just,
oh yeah, it's great.
Crazy.
Now, did you guys notice the little mushroom I've got on my head?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
Feeling
hate those
strange?
mushrooms.
Feeling strange.
Oh, talk to me about mushrooms, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Your controls go wacky.
Yeah.
Left,
Basically,
left can be up, right can be up, down can be left, down can be down. You don't know, and it changes like every 10 seconds.
so I think I wasn't for sure, but I think what they do is they will rotate. So if up is up, when they'll have a timer and it'll move to like up is right.
It'll just cycle
And
it.
then
Yeah.
It'll cycle through there.
I
So-
feel like I guessed that too, but yeah.
Yeah.
I did my best to get rid of it as soon as possible. They do have an NPC that you can cure yourself, and they also give you money for it because he buys your mushrooms. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
that
you
was
dealt
kinda
with
cool.
this, but if I got mushroomed on NES, I pretty much immediately booked it, at least in the early game.
Get out of here.
To undo that because, oh my gosh. I would just rotate the controller as it was updating and then to help navigate. It's a pain.
So we are in Tucson now, and we're looking for Paula. And Alamaxia, do you remember what the whole deal is with Paula? Like why we're looking for her?
She's missing. No one,
Yeah, she
no
also,
one knows
like-
where she is.
She also telepathically like got into our mind, right?
Yep,
She's
she
like-
she is very much reaching out to Ness and being like, "Hey, I need help."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get here and she's been kidnapped. We're gonna learn that. And also a little bit ago, we just saw one of my favorite group of people, the Blues Brothers. I mean the the
Runaway Five.
Runaway Five.
I
love them so much. Oh, now we're fighting for Carlos Santana.
Yep.
So this guy, we go to this market, and there's kind of this guy that runs the market / maybe a gang leader /
I think
maybe
he's a
not really. And
He's the market leader.
he's the market leader, right? By the way, he honestly looks like Carlos Santana. I love it so much. And so, yeah, you go there, and he's like, I'm gonna test you or something like that, and he will tell you where to go get Paula. So that's kind of cool. Did anyone explore the market here and kind of find some interesting items?
Yeah, I bought a for sale sign, and it's an item you can use. And like, this guy runs over and he's like, "I came as fast as I can. What are you selling?" And like, just out of nowhere, he'll come and you can like sell some stuff or buy some things, I think, or maybe he just buys off you, and then you can say no, and he goes, "Oh, okay, well." It's just like, I don't know. The characters are just so good.
My favorite thing is you can sell. There's some completely useless items that you'll pick up. So one is like a protractor, which is like worth $1. And if you sell him anytime he sells him something, he's like, "Oh man, I'm really glad I came out here." So I love the idea of someone racing halfway across the world, and I sell him a protractor, and they're like, "Yes, you made my day."
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Speaking of those things, I guess we should talk about the inventory system because at first, you know, you've only got Ness and each character, and you'll get more characters later. Spoilers, but each character has an inventory size of 10, and there's usually like some kind of key items you got to carry around as well as your equipment. So it fills up real fast, and you can call your sister who works for, what was it called? Something Express.
Is it S Cargo?
S Cargo Express, yeah. And she'll send out a dude to come pick up items, or if you want to withdraw items, you can get them like that. But honestly, I didn't use that system very much. I most of the time just sold stuff because I didn't want to deal with it, unless it was something that I was like, this might come in handy later. And
some things they don't allow you to sell, so that's a good. Yeah, like for instance, I think like there's a thing called like a broken machine or a
Mm.
pencil eraser,
Mhm,
any
mhm.
things that could be used but maybe won't be used in the future, you can't sell.
Mhm.
So those are always annoying to deal with. Because talking about erasers, we
Mhm.
just went to an area that has a pencil sticking out of the ground, and there's two dudes we talked to, Apple Kid and Orange Kid, is that right?
Yep.
Or something like
Mhm.
that?
Yep.
And they're inventors, and so you need to. One of them gives you more or less a walkie-talkie, and he can talk to you occasionally when he's got a cool new invention. And one of the inventions they have, I believe, is a pencil eraser.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I don't-
Yeah.
you have to go back to Tucson and get yourself a pencil eraser, and that will open up this gate for you.
Right. What it does is it erases a pencil in the world.
Yeah.
It's not a pencil eraser. It's a pencil.
No, it is a
Eraser.
pencil
Eraser
eraser.
of pencils.
Yeah, eraser
Yeah.
of pencils.
Yeah.
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 So as you're walking around here, sometimes you'll find these little butterflies, and the butterflies make you and your party relax, which basically means you regenerate a little bit of your psi. So early in the game, I definitely felt the psi pressure. Like there's not a whole
Mhm.
lot of, you can only cast a couple spells, and so I was reluctant to use my magic. So psi is basically magic, right?
Mhm.
And
PP.
but yeah. Yeah.
A psychic power, I think.
That's
I
right.
think,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. The PP there. All right. Well, who wants to talk a little bit about this cult we've stumbled into?
Yeah.
So this is where Paul is
Yeah,
captured, right?
We go to Happy Village, right?
Mhm.
And is this the one that's all blue?
Yes.
Everything's blue, and like all the civilians of the town are kind of brainwashed, and everything's blue, and they're painting things blue, and yeah, there's this cult that's just in this, fully covered garb it's more purple to me, but it's I guess supposed to be bluish, and there's a big building in the middle of the town, and they're having like a big meeting there, and you can talk to some of the members, and they'll move out of the way, and you can navigate your way through that. But yeah, I forget what's happening right off the bat when we get here.
Well, so we basically found Paula, and she's in a jail, and I think she says there's a dude named Carpainter. So everything in this town has been painted with blue, right? So it's kind of got this motif of painting. And so she gives you a badge called the Franklin badge, which that's super good item. Keep that on Ness, because that will reflect lightning when Ness gets hit with lightning. So yeah, and Paula tells you go over and is maybe kill Carpenter or talk to him or something like that. One of the two. So that's the current objective right now, because Carpenter has the keys to free Paula. So there you go. And so we're hanging out. This was an interesting little puzzle here. Is like you said, Lobos, there was a bunch of guys in blue, and they block off the route, so you kind of have to walk and move them out of the way. But once you get into a little bit deeper in here, we find Alamaxi. What is in front of us here? It's a gold statue, right?
Oh, it's the. I'm trying to remember the name of those.
The Mani Mani statue.
Mani, yeah.
Yeah.
And
do you remember where you first see it? Because I remember where I first saw it.
Whenever you are going, when it's in the morning after the meteor, and Ness can actually walk around and go out. There's a little shack near where the meteor was, and the guy there's like, "Hey, I found something down here. Hey kid, you wanna come to my basement and you want to see what I got?"
100% I do, strange man. Thank you.
And his name is Liar Exaggerate, and that's one of my good friends' like usernames for the longest time. So
Nice.
I knew it was his favorite character, but just that's his name, Liar Exaggerate.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, and then that Manny statue kind of is your MacGuffin. You kind of see that all around the world, right? So
Yeah,
there's some. It's a bad thing.
It is bad. It's having an influence on people.
Yeah.
And yeah, we fight Car Painter, right? And kind of knock him
Yep.
out of his stupor, his haze. And then that kind of
Exactly.
disbands the cult that's going on around there, and you get the key, and then we rescue Paula, and then Paula joins us. And
we go back to Tucson, right?
Go back to Tucson, yeah. We've rescued her.
And I think this is where we more or less want to go and hang out with the Runaway Five. And the reason why we want to do this is there is a tunnel to go to the next place, which is Threed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't caught already, some of the, a lot of the intro villages are named like, oh, this is One-It, Tucson, Threed, and then the fourth one is
Fourside,
yeah.
I love it.
So I love these little dance numbers. So we went into the club, and the Runaway Five, they do this little dance. Music's great in this game, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And it just reminds me of the Blues Brothers, but these guys maybe aren't so good with money, right? They keep getting themselves into debt.
Yeah, or
what do we gotta
business
do?
deals, yeah.
Yeah, they're really horrible with negotiations.
They need a manager, right?
Yeah, they get trapped in all these sorts of contracts, and they're just basically trapped playing gigs in one place for the rest of their foreseeable lives if nothing else changes. But you managed to get a wad of bills from what was his name? The not gang leader of the market or whatever, right? And then you use that to bail them out essentially, and then we can hop in their van. Or their tour bus, rather, and they will take us through a tunnel that was previously filled with ghosts, and it's too spooky for you to go through, but not in the van. The van plays, I think, loud music and will keep the ghosts at bay.
Yeah, we saw that a little bit ago. I went down and went into the tunnel, and the ghost will get you out of there. So, yeah. Now, this is sort of an optional thing. You could skip this or, move on and come back to this. But after completing that little thing in Threed, or, before going to Threed, I actually went to the My Sanctuary location in Tucson. There's a little cave. If I remember right, there's like a cave.
From Happy Village.
Happy Village,
yep.
Right? Yeah,
yep.
That's right. And in here, there's just a giant mole man. His name is Mondo Mole. Yeah.
Mondo Mole. Yeah, Sanctuary location number 2, which I did not go here until the very end of the game.
When they tell you where to go, right?
Yeah.
They did not tell me where to go, but I saw. So
there's a rock that will tell you all the locations you need to go to. We'll see in the video.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I think I went here and it was a little tough for me at the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll come back later, and then didn't. But you're doing it now, and yeah. So this is just one of those sanctuary locations that you can add to your soundstone, which again is required. There's 8 of them, and you got to get them all. And that's why I ended up doing it at the very end. But
now,
yeah.
This battle is one of the first ones I feel like that you can't exactly cheese, but a lot of these boss battles, there's some kind of mechanic to them that you can either directly overcome or something you could do that basically one-shots the boss. But this one, if you kept paralyzing him, you just wouldn't attack that often. It made it a lot easier to not have Paula get one shot or two shot by every one of his attacks.
Yeah, when Paula joins, she is considerably lower level and has really low HP, so you got to do some grinding up. And it's kind of a pain if a character dies in this game because you have to take them to the hospital. We didn't talk about locations and towns, but hospital's one of them. And at the hospital, you can revive a character. You can cure some ailments that you don't have any cure items for.
Like the mushroom.
Like mushroom, yeah. There's a guy there, and there's also, you can talk to the doctor, and he'll cure just kind of some regular status effects, which you end up being able to clear later. So I don't even think I ever used the doctor proper, but yeah. So they do give you some items that let you revive a character. but I feel like there were not a whole lot, at least throughout the game. But occasionally you can buy them. Yeah, you can buy them, like a cup of life noodles, which cup noodles, delicious.
Life noodles.
But yeah.
Yeah, the status effects in this game are quite interesting. Most of them you wouldn't think of when you think about status effects in RPGs. They do have poison, right? So that's the give me, and I think, and then they have like a cold, like you got the sniffles.
Yep.
You can cry. You can have sunstroke.
Yep.
Your body can turn into diamond. You can be paralyzed.
Diamond eyes, yeah. Freeze. Paralyze. Homesick, yeah. Homesick's a cool
that's
one.
a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, this is a good segue because I know, Al Max, you were talking about talking to mother, which helps your homesickness. But do you want to talk a little bit about calling your mom or maybe seeing your mom and some of the conversations you might have there?
Yeah, they're kind of interesting. So I don't know if we touched earlier that Ness's dad is basically always out on business. He's never actually at home, so it's just his mom, his sister, and himself. So whenever Ness leaves, he has to interact with his family via phone. And the way you save is use a phone and you call your dad, and your dad will save for you. And your dad also gives you money. And I think the money he gives you is like equal to the amount of experience you've earned or something.
Yeah, it's based off of it, yeah.
Directly related. So it's real easy to get a bunch of money in this game.
Yeah.
But whenever you call your mom, if Ness is homesick, he's like, "Oh, I miss my mother," or "I want steak," or whatever your favorite thing is in the game, favorite food. But she'll cure your homesickness. Be like, "Oh, thanks for calling, honey." But if you call her without being homesick, you get some pretty interesting dialogue that makes it feel like his mom is not exactly faithful, but it's also it could be entirely innocent.
I didn't catch any of that.
I didn't catch that.
You're reading.
I didn't catch that. All right, you need to go into some details here.
I know, right?
So she talks about there's one where she's like, "Oh, I'll tell your teacher next time he's over," or something about like it sounds like, again, if you read between the lines, it sounds like she's having an affair with multiple people.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that changes things a lot for me.
She's so sweet though.
She is so sweet.
You go home,
which is why it could be so innocent.
Yeah, I love when you'd go home and she's like, "Now, you're too tired. Just eat." So my favorite food I entered was pizza.
Mine was,
and
also
she's
pizza.
like, "Just eat some pizza and go to bed." And I'm like, "Oh, Mom, I love you. Like you're the best." You know,
they do a very good job.
Cozy.
Yeah, they do a very good job of making it a homey feel, and Mom's gonna take care of you and all this stuff. And when you're creating your names at the beginning of the game, you can set names for the characters. I left them all default.
Me too. Except for my own.
Right,
character.
except for SMG, yeah. And then you choose your favorite food, which I did pizza as well. And then you also pick a favorite thing, and that becomes the name of basically Ness's ultimate psychic ability, which is a nice AoE damaging spell.
Wait, is so because I had games, so so mine was Psy Games.
Yes.
Are you saying that was Psy whatever you entered there?
Correct.
Yep.
That's correct. Yep.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even correlate those.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, because I put my wife's name because like she was right next to me while I was playing, and I was like,
that's pretty obvious. Yeah, you can see that,
but
to me, like Psy Games seems like a completely legitimate spell name. Right?
I used gaming, so it was like Psy Gaming. So
Psy Gaming. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh man, so we didn't skip, but we missed the first probably half of Threed, which has been overrun by zombies.
Yeah.
Yes. And the zombies are hanging out in a tent.
Yeah.
Or
no, they're not.
Not in the tent yet.
They're like in the graveyards and stuff, and
everyone else is hiding.
And everywhere else, yeah. And I think you go to confront somebody about it, and the zombies ambush you, and they kidnap Ness and Paula and lock you up. And so you're like, what the heck? And then I think Paula reaches out to our new friend, Jeff, who's at like an academy in the north in Winters, which is a snowy area. And then you take control of Jeff, and you can explore the school before you leave and start to make your way to Ness and Paula.
And
Now, I
Jeff,
will say, go ahead.
I would say Jeff is a really interesting character. He's very different from Ness and Paula in that he gets some very overpowered items he can use called bottle rockets that basically break the first 3/4 of the game. But he also will fix broken things. So right there at the beginning, he fixes this broken paint can, and you get a defensive spray. And that's your hint that if you come across other broken things, then he'll eventually fix them. And I couldn't really pinpoint what triggered him being able to fix something. But if you keep all those little broken items you find, you can get some really powerful weapons out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Or
I got a
reusable
bazooka,
items.
which was amazing.
Yeah, the rocket launcher thing is amazing, yeah.
But
yeah, I think it's based off his level, and then when you take a rest, if you have an item that you're high enough level for to repair, then he'll repair it, and then now you have that item. Some of them are just one-time use, like the defense spray ups somebody's defense for a battle, but then a lot of them are multi-use, and those kind of become his main ways of attacking or doing anything, his main actions, because he doesn't get any psychic abilities, and he can shoot stuff, but it's pretty mediocre physical damage, and sometimes you need things like buffing the party or the bottle rockets are consumable one-time use as well, so if you're not going out of your way to buy them a bunch, you might get them here and there and then use them and then they're done. Or save them for a boss and just nuke the boss, and that's mostly what I did.
Yeah. Now, as I'm watching this and kind of reflecting on the game, the reason we're talking to Jeff is Paula once again has reached out and has communicated with someone kind of through the ether, right? And I wish that the game maybe made a bigger deal out of her actually like praying, because that will come into play much later on in the game.
Right.
yeah.
But I think it's something maybe you're supposed to pick on, that like Paula has this innate ability to communicate to other people and almost like directly like call out to that person and say, "Hey, I'm talking to you. Listen to me." So that's how we kind of got to Jeff. And so you start out and you kind of have to you learn about the repairing that you talked about. I think you have to repair a key to get some basic equipment, and you can go down. And this is one of the things that was really great is you go to a shop, right? And there is a pack of bubble gum, and they say, "Hey, if you buy this pack of bubble gum, you get a free monkey with it." So I'm like, "Hey, I'll take a free monkey." I don't know. Like I played a Link's Away.
Link to the Past.
Link to the Past. Like
Kiki,
I know monkeys are good. Yeah. So you use that monkey, and basically you use
The monkey loves bubblegum.
yes,
he does.
And then that more or less summons like a Loch Ness monster type thing, and you ride the head of that to go down and meet your father, right?
Yeah.
Doctor
Kind of-
or something, or
kind of like
Andonauts.
is strange, like not like they don't really check in on each other, and he's like, "Oh, hey son, like okay, here, and then here's a spaceship that can take you to where you need to go, and maybe we'll talk again. Bye." It's like and a funny thing that happened to me was I tried to interact with the spaceship like 2 or 3 times, and I didn't hit the sweet spot of entering the spaceship. So I backtracked and started looking all over the place, and then I eventually had to look it up, and it was just like, interact with the spaceship, and I was like, what? And I just missed the sweet spot. But in any case, you get a nice long cutscene of Jeff flying over some perhaps future locations, and then crash lands straight into the prison there where Ness and Paula are being held.
Yeah, and it's a good thing we have learned how to unlock doors with Jeff, because that's going to come in handy right here as we're trying to break out of prison with SMG.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's like the machine is like key fixer or something like that. And I
Yeah,
think it
yeah,
like
something like
molds a
that.
key for the purpose that you need. So you use that, and then it gets you out of the room.
Bad key machine, I think.
Bad key machine.
Yeah. Now here's the tent you were talking about a little bit earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave you a clue on what they want you to do for the tent here. I'm not sure, how that logically works. I don't think it matters, but actually, I guess we have to fight the tent first. I had forgotten about this.
This is a different tent that's to the south. Yeah, boogie tent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
there is another tent in the center of town, and I think like the council of the town or something. They're there, kind of talking about what to do, and they're like, if only we could somehow like I don't remember where you get the item, but it's like zombie glue or zombie
paper.
zombie paper. Yeah, like fly paper.
You get it after you beat this boss, and Apple Kid gives you.
Oh, okay. That's what it is. Yeah, the Apple Kid and Orange Kid very conveniently will call you as you're in need of something and be like, "Hey, I just invented this thing that's
trout flavored ice cream."
Yeah. Oh yeah, trout flavored ice cream. Yeah. And in this case, it would be zombie paper. And you come up with an idea to lure all the zombies to the main tent, but have a bunch of zombie paper down so it catches them all. And then they can't do anything.
Now,
I don't remember why. Oh, I was going to say, I don't
after
remember
you
why
beat
we're
the tent,
fighting the tent, the boogie tent.
well, you have to take down the tent in order to get the zombie paper from Apple Kid. But
Oh,
there is another thing that you can get after the tent called fly honey.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's hanging out in a trash can, and that is not helpful except for one boss.
Mm-hmm.
And it will effectively disable that boss entirely.
Yeah.
Which I actually did manage to get, so yay.
Nice.
Likewise,
Cool.
yeah. Kept it in my inventory the whole time. Like, this will come in handy. This will come in handy.
Yeah, so now we're seeing all the zombies are attracted to the tent, and again, the whole reason we wanted to move those is we're looking on the video right now. There's a ladder down to this area, and I think it's maybe the sewers or something, and that is where we want to go. But it was being blocked by 2 zombies, so by pulling all the zombies down there, we've now opened up the path to get down there. So that's cool.
I love that you go into the tent and there's zombies just laying down, and like some of them are like, well, like, I don't know what. Yeah, there they are, and they're just like, I guess I'll just stay here. Some of them don't say anything, but yeah, again, it's just the characters they make are just ridiculous.
And then there's a guy in the tent here that's like, boy, there's a bunch of zombies here. I wonder if they could still get me. Oh well. And he's like, never thinks to like leave the tent and just escape from the zombies there. One thing I did want to talk about, kind of going back to the battles, because I think this is a really cool little visual flair, is all of the battles have these crazy backgrounds.
Oh yeah,
that almost look like, I don't know, like, I want to say
They're psychedelic.
60s style. Yeah.
yeah, psychedelic.
Yeah.
They're using like
Those are random patterns, like kaleidoscope patterns and stuff.
It's like the Mode 7 kind of stuff, where there's like scrolling textures that just kind of, they really distorts and warps. And yeah, it's an interesting background for sure.
And I kind of wonder now if they're associated with the enemy types or just the areas they're in, or how they determine what background should have.
Oh, I didn't pay close enough attention.
Yeah, that's a good question. Also, yeah. I'm not sure if it was the same for every, the same enemy encounter. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, we are we're fighting this. I love this dude. He's got these big googly eyes and a little frown.
Little
but
slime.
is mini Barf, I believe his name is. And we're gonna fight his big daddy Belch, I think his name is.
Belch.
Later on. Yeah. So yeah, we went down into this little sewer area, or wherever the zombies were guarding. And now we're gonna work our way through these tunnels to kill this last guy. And I don't actually remember why we are trying to clear out this area. Does anyone remember what's going on, like what the objective is?
I forget if
I
he's
think
like
we're trying to
generating.
get to Saturn Valley, aren't we?
But is
Are
there?
we? I thought he was like
what is
just
blocking us?
the zombies were being generated from here or something, like they're attracted.
Could be that.
I think it's still resolving that. I could be wrong. It's been a while though.
Yeah.
But we could talk more about a little bit about like how like overworld combat stuff works, because it's got mechanics like other JRPGs where you can see the enemies on the screen, where you can ambush them if you walk into their backs, or they can ambush you if they walk into your back. So you need to be conscious of that, and especially as your party grows, they can ambush your party members, which they trail behind you, and that can cause some issues with that. But also, typically, once you clear out a sanctuary boss, the enemies will all in that area start running away from you, and that's
super cool.
Gives you really nice like opportunity for farming, because if you're high enough level and you get sneak attacks, even sometimes if you don't get sneak attacks, you'll just auto complete the battle and get all the rewards. So it's super nice for farming up a bit.
Totally.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it seems really cool when you kill the big baddie. Everyone's scared of you now, so it was a lot of fun to just have monsters run away. But Almax, you're talking about Saturn Valley. Man, these guys are fun, right?
I love.
Why don't you walk us through Mr. Saturn? They're all Mr. Saturn, right?
Every one of them is Mr. Saturn. this little basically, it's hard to describe. This little flesh ball with a couple little stubbly legs, a big giant nose, some whiskers, very bold eyebrows, and a little bow on the one hair that comes out of their head. And they all the font that they use whenever they talk to you is very loopy and swirly, and it kind of gives you that it kind of, you understand kind of how they talk different. It's like this weird, like, do you want to stay here? It's like,
and they're all boing. They always say boing,
zoom,
boing, zoom. It's just got these words they use. But yeah, it's almost like
so friendly.
It's like webdings, but you can read it or something like or wingdings.
Yeah, wingdings. They give us a little clue to enter the secret area where Mr. Belch is. Do you guys remember what the clue is?
It's about saying the password, and then you have to wait.
You got to say the password. Yep.
Yeah, and you have to wait like 30 seconds or something like that.
3 minutes.
Is it 3 minutes? 3 whole minutes? Okay.
Yeah, you literally just sit there for 3 minutes. I almost wanted to have a 3-minute section in this video where we just sat there and wait. But I mean, there's just so much to talk about. I couldn't justify 3 minutes of it.
Dedicated to that, yeah.
But just like that would have been cool. So think about like that. Yeah. Pretend that we did that.
Now, before we get into this boss, we just went through a room that had a magic butterfly. And this is one thing I think the game did really well, is right before you're about to come up against a super hard fight, there's usually a room that you could enter and exit constantly to keep getting magic butterflies. So you could sit there and get your party completely regened up like a room before the boss, which was very helpful. Because if you spent too much of your PP, your psychic power, going in there, then some of these bosses just you had no chance.
Yeah. Yep. Or you die and then come back and fight again a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
Or
so Mr. Belch here. Yes, yeah. Which, by the way, going back to the tent that we're fighting, I did end up using a bottle rocket to kind of give numbers there, a comparison. I think my characters were doing 60 damage, and the bottle rocket came in and hit for like 530. So yeah, lots of damage. Now I think this is the one that I used the fly honey on.
Yep.
Is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what that does.
It just disables him. Like it just distracts him the whole time, right? I don't think he does anything.
Yeah, because he wants to eat the fly honey, right?
Yeah, he just eats it. And I used it, but like literally at the end of the fight, I was like, I use it. And
I did
went,
too.
Oh snap! And then I got like 2 turns of him just doing that. And I was like, oh okay.
Yep. Yeah, because you actually have to use it. You can't just walk into the fight with it. You have to actually use as an item, right?
Yeah.
Now, I like whenever you're interacting with Belch. His name is Belch, so he's constantly hear this just burp whenever he talks.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that was kind of cute is when you start the game and you're entering in the names of your characters, they kind of have a person that kind of like talks to you, and so like that sort of weird confirmation there. But here's some cool thing here. This is kind of just reflecting on our journey here.
Yeah.
And I'd say maybe halfway through the game at this point, maybe a little less here, but it's a good opportunity for this little screen to come up and it's just a, you got the wavy pattern and just text that is going by, and it's like, hey, you've had a little bit of a journey so far, and you're going to be important, and keep it up. And I like that.
Yeah, it's like
a cool little.
It's like a milestone point, and it's totally unexpected. At least it was for me, because you just walk up to a Mr. Saturn, and he's like, "Would you like some tea?" And it's like you drink some tea, and then you start to like hallucinate, and then the screen turns into this scrolling text, and it plays this I don't know, like music that just it sets a vibe of like almost like, I mean, I guess you're supposed to be kind of hallucinating and just having a feeling good time, and then you're thinking about what everything you've done up to this point and what you're about to do, and it's really interesting. It's a strange takeaway from what the rest of the game is, which happens kind of often. Like, it leaves the cheery feel of and the silly feel that is there for most of the game, and then becomes a little more serious, but also like, I don't know, it's just the game does that in several places, and it's like, wow, okay.
It stays wacky,
yeah,
but it doesn't go too deep into it. It keeps itself grounded.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about reflecting the drug side,
that's
we'll get to that in just
where you
a
buy
second.
drugs.
Yeah.
And there's also kind of this suspicious guy above it. He's like, "Hey man, what do you want?" Kind of looking, just a little
like
shifty
Mr.
guy.
T.
Yeah. Kind of going back to the that T segment we had, I want to talk a little bit about the photographic or the photographer dude.
Yes.
So periodically through the game, that music, you'll hear that music, and then this dude will just come down. He pauses the game more or less. He comes down. It's like, hey, I'm gonna snap a photo of you. All right, smile.
He spins from the sky down.
Yeah.
Just woo.
And he takes a photo, and I wasn't able to determine. I think the intent is they take those photos and show those at the end of the credits, but I wasn't able to determine if that's true. Did anyone recognize something in the end credits? It's like, oh, this is clearly
like specific to yours.
Yeah.
That I was wondering that too. I don't think any of the ones that I saw had specific things, but you can be in slightly different positions. You could have different party members. So I imagine they probably just like they don't do it specific to you, but they do base it off that, like, flags for whether or not the characters are all there, or that kind of thing. But it's still like a default. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Well, because I could have sworn one of my characters was dead for one of them, and when your character is dead, you have a ghost version of them.
Right.
So I didn't see any. But that would be interesting to kind of look up there.
Yeah.
I like every time he's like, all right, say Fuzzy Pickles, and then
Fuzzy Pickles.
Ness just puts up his two fingers, and all the other characters are just kind of standing there.
Yeah, they're just like, what?
Ness is so darn cute, though, right? Like he's got the happiest smile. He's got the peace sign there. He's like he's living his best life here. Well, this area is quite long. We've got a desert. We're gonna go in and out of that a little bit. But we find one of my favorite groups again, the Runaway Five. They got themselves into debt again.
$1
million.
Oh boy. Yeah. At a whole different theater, same problem, but
yeah. They're doing a nice little show here,
music.
which again I love. Yep. Yeah, the music in this game super great. I love the different themes here. Again, the Runaway Five, I love their music. I can hear it in my head. How good that is.
Yeah, a lot of super iconic music. I was just, every time I hopped into a shop, I knew what was coming, and I would just just kind of like kind of a bluesy Western kind of thing. And then just each town, you'll eventually start traveling around different towns, and you'll remember the music. It's super memorable, super well done. But we've made it to Fourside, our fourth.
Who we talking to?
Town.
Who's the leader here?
Ooh, Well, the leader is Monotoli, right? Mr. Monotoli, but we're talking to Pokey, who suddenly he's caught up in some things. And by caught up, I mean, like, he's kind of taken charge. He's I don't know. He's he's making some plays.
Kind of like he's like the big exec in town, right? He's got all the money and he's got bodyguards and he's kind of bullying. Well, if you talk to him, he definitely bullies you around. I think he calls you like pig nose or pig face or something like that.
He's really rude to you for being your best friend.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So we're going digging, and Alamaxi, do you remember the whole sequence with the we're trying to find gold, right? You remember this area?
Yeah. What we're doing is we have to go through a maze, and we have to defeat all the moles. So there's 5 moles down here, and the first one we come up against here is the third strongest mole, number 3. So you have to work.
It even says it in the background there, so you know definitely number 3.
Definitely know it's number 3. Yeah, we're trying to get to the end of there and get that gold to help out the Runaway Five. And what's fun is there's 5 moles you have to defeat, but they're all the third most powerful mole.
Yeah, they all say something different, and I love it.
Yeah.
One of them is like, "I'm definitely the third strongest." The rest are liars, and they're cute. So we skip through most of them because they're all kind of the same. They all have some cute dialogue, but for the most part, yeah, you just go through this little maze, and once you clear it out, the guy who's trying to mine can finally complete his mining operation, right? And so again, we're trying to find some gold. And we didn't quite get gold, but we got something just as good, which is a diamond. I'd say that's probably like $1 million, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more because you go to give it to her and she's like, oh, just a diamond? Okay, yeah. I mean, this isn't worth that much, but it's enough.
Yeah, she's like maybe $50,
$50. Right? But that's enough to, get the Runaway Five off the hook. And I don't remember why we're doing this. I know the department store is closed, which is like a big multi-story building with shops and stuff like that.
Well, I think someone tells you that you need the Runaway Five's help. Was it the motto?
You have to talk with Venus, who is a dancer with the Runaway Five.
That's right.
So you need to get them to do their last show so that you can meet Venus.
Ah, okay.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, and then the department store opens, yeah.
There's a department store open. So this is probably, for me, one of the biggest difficulty spikes.
Yeah.
Lobos, did you have any problems on this one? So this is one where Paula gets
abducted,
stolen.
Right? Yeah. This was tricky. Yeah, you explore the whole department store. You're like, cool. And then you start to leave, and then the lights go out, and you just keep hearing over the loudspeaker, and you see some alien figure scurry by, and suddenly Paula's gone, and then the loudspeaker comes on and just goes doo 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 doo. It says, Ness, please come to the 4th office floor. And yeah, this place definitely was pretty tough. I died a couple times, and again, it's kind of nice because you earn XP, and then you die, and then you respawn, but now you're a little bit stronger, and then over and over, and you can keep doing that until you get super, strong enough.
Yeah. But
yeah, big groups of enemies. I remember there's like the enemies now are ridiculous, by the way. There's a vinyl. There's a cup of coffee, I remember, that will splash and deal AoE.
That's nasty.
That thing is real real nasty. It just does damage to your whole party and a lot, too. So, yeah, it gets messy.
And you can see my character is homesick. And so when you're homesick, you have some chance to basically lose your turn. And it just says, your character was missing your mom, and then that's the end of your turn.
Yeah. At this point in the game, I started doing a lot of spawn manipulation, which if you ever played like Mega Man, early Mega Mans, you can kind of see an enemy and then scroll them off the screen and then come back and maybe they're gone or it's in this case, it's like different spawns. So sometimes it might be like 3 enemies and you're like, oh crap. But then you scroll them off, scroll them back, and then there's a butterfly and you're like, oh, that's much better. So I'll take that.
I'll take that.
And sometimes it's just nothing and you can just walk by. So I didn't use running away a lot, but I did a couple of times because I failed to deload the enemies or whatever, and I was in a rough situation. So I don't know how tough it is to run away from things, but for me it seemed like maybe 50-50.
Yeah, I was going to say it seems about 50-50.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where if you miss a turn, often you can get yourself in a real bad situation.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it's often better to just fight.
Mm-hmm. Because, at this point in the game, going up the department store, Paula became a real powerhouse of a spellcaster. So you'd frost things. It would freeze them potentially, skip their turns. Like, she was really strong. And then they just remove that. And then, you have some tough battles. You go all the way to the top, and then you fight this, what was his name? I don't remember. Some little alien guy.
Oh, it's like a store spook or something like that.
Oh, yeah. But I don't think you get Paula back.
Nope.
And
no, I didn't know where to go after that.
Yeah.
And so, but the game does have an in-game hint system, which is cool. Every town, I believe, has a vendor there, and they'll sell hints there for pretty cheap. By the way, money for the most part is irrelevant. Like, you'll always have enough money to do stuff. I very rarely was out of money, so
yeah,
paying a little bit for a hint wasn't a deal breaker there. And so they tell you to go to the cafe, and there is a secret. Actually, no, you go to the cafe and you talk to someone, and then there's someone kind of laying on the ground. They're all
outside,
gathered around him.
Everdread.
And he tells you, sorry, what was that?
It's Everdread. It was our friend
Everdread.
from
Everdread,
Tucson.
right.
The not gang leader
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah. And he tells you that there's a secret switch in the cafe, and then he gets up and walks off. He's like, okay, I'm okay now, and everyone just watches him walk off there. But his line that he says, I love it. I don't remember who it was, but he said, oh, this character stole from a thief. A thief stole from a thief, and he's very upset about that.
Counter thief.
So, question for you guys. Yes or no, are we in Moonside?
We are in Moonside.
There you go. What'd you say, Alamaxia?
We're in Moonside.
No, that's not. No, the right answer is no.
Because we teleport over to
Everything is
Moonside.
opposite.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
No, that's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, this place, I didn't like this place.
I didn't like it either.
This was tough.
This is basically a mirror realm of Fourside, except there are like arbitrary invisible walls as you're exploring the outside. And then there are like surfer dudes with blonde hair you can talk to that will teleport you, not randomly, but they're not distinct from each other. So there might be like 3 surfer dudes right next to each other, and they'll teleport you to a specific spot. And you have to kind of keep teleporting around. You eventually find an NPC next that seems to be blocking where you need to go. And I don't remember if he gives you some sort of hint right there.
He does. He's like, oh, I'm only moving for someone with like thick eyebrows and glasses or something like that.
Yeah, some sort of teeth. I can't remember. But,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe the teeth there.
Yeah. But you have to just keep teleporting until you find your way. And I did have to eventually guide because I was just, I kept going in circles, exploring all sorts of wrong places. But then I found the right teleport guy. I watched a video and was like, okay, that's where I need to go. And then after a certain teleport, there's an invisible person that's following you, and they say, Teehee, you can't see me, right? And then they'll start talking about how they have these specific features that guy was looking for. But you can't ever see him. He's just following you. And you take him there, and then the guy's like, oh, that person has this and this and this. I'll let you through. And then you have a fight with the Mani statue that is creating this whole realm as an illusion, right? Unless I skipped stuff.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I do want to talk about the visuals of Moonside because it's very striking. It's very like there's a lot of black, but then all the edges of like the buildings are neon.
Yeah.
So it has this very cool, like almost like one of the star levels in like a Super Mario Brothers or what was the special star
Road?
Super Mario World?
Oh, Mario World. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you destroy the Mighty Manny statue, and then you awaken in basically the storeroom, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you were more or less dreaming because the Mighty Manny statue was projecting this stuff into your head," and then boy, we learn about some trout ice cream. We get some trout ice cream to this woman who's so thankful, and she says, "Hey, why don't you come up to the 48th floor of the skyscraper here?" And that is where we're gonna see Master Pokey again, right?
We see Monotoli right here.
Yeah,
Monotoli
right. With Paula, who's been kept here, and then I don't think you fight him or anything. He's just like, oh, I was kind of manipulated into this, and I'm so sorry, Paula. You can go, and Paula joins you, and then he's like, you know what? The Mani Mani statue, it was an illusion and kind of had control of me or whatever. You can take my helicopter. It's, go through the secret door, and then you go to it, and somebody beats you to the punch.
Any bets on who it might be?
Well, judging by the giant head sticking out. Just that image right there with his head sticking out of the front makes it look like his head is the face of the helicopter. I mean, that right there could have been an enemy you fight.
Yeah, easily. Mm-hmm. No, but Pokey has taken the helicopter from you. Of course, like makes fun of you, and then he takes off. And the Runaway Five gives us a ride again, huh?
Yeah, back to 3 because
Threed.
Yeah, they don't tell you why you need to go here. They're just like, you had to go there for a reason. I'm sure you guys know why. So, again, they don't tell the player, but it seems like SMG or the NES tells the Runaway Five why they want to go there. So anyway.
Yep. And
the reason why,
if we haven't, we lost our helicopter, we need something else that flies. Well, we remember one thing that we've flown in before, and it's the crashed spaceship, of course, which has now been, they said they painted over all the broken parts, which, that's enough to fix it. So that's good.
This game.
I love that.
Yeah. And then we
and so they give you a hint here.
Doctor and Donuts Lab.
And because previously we were here, and this is a Stonehenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can go here, or you can try to beat this boss earlier, but I think I did, but I failed. I was too weak, so this is an opportunity to come back and you try to kill this.
You can't fight him at first because you don't have the Sound Stone. So
I think you have to have
pass it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he mentions like it just straight up says like you can't do this without Ness or something like that.
I gotcha.
But then you come back and you had seen this sanctuary guardian, so you come back and defeat it, collect another Soundstone song, and and then no, we don't go into down Stonehenge yet, but
not yet. So I don't know if you just saw, but one of the items that Jeff used was called a Hungry HP Sucker. This is an okay mid-level item, I think. It doesn't work all the time.
Yeah.
But it is cool because it did some serious damage to that boss, about 250 hit points, and then you absorb some amount of health from that. So it was pretty nice. And again, that's one where you just constantly can use it. So it's not a consumable, it's a reusable item. And again, I think only Jeff can use those reusable items.
Right.
And I think anyone can do the consumables. Is that right?
Like the defense spray.
Defense spray, yes, but bottle rockets, I think, are specific to Jeff
only.
But bombs, anybody can use.
Bombs, okay.
Yeah. Kind of arbitrary distinction there, but some of the things, I guess, take a little bit more IQ that Jeff has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we were just in a cold area, so in winter, so maybe we heat it up a little bit here. go somewhere a little more exotic, a town called Summers. And we're going to stay here for a while only because our UFO blew up once again. I guess that paint doesn't hold up too long.
Yeah, and this time it seems to be like completely destroyed. It's just like, that's done.
Ooh, now
So Summers here is a nice little resort. You think about like a hotel on the beach there. You got your palm trees and you got your patio furniture, or lounge, or sand chairs, whatever you call those things, poolside chairs.
Yeah.
And we actually picked up a new skill, right?
Yeah, I forget when we learn it, but we do learn the ability to teleport, which is pretty dang cool. And it's got kind of a little, not a mini game, but it's got specifics to how you can actually cast it.
Yeah,
and
I liked that.
Yeah, I liked it too. So there's multiple tiers of the spell, but the first one you get is teleport A, and you basically need a runway and if you hit anything while you're running to build up speed to teleport, your characters will all just like kind of crash, and it'll be like kind of charred. They all look charred, but they bumped and it failed. The spell failed or fizzled. And so you can teleport around now and get NPCs or whatever you need.
Now with that teleport A, you have to have the runway, but you could also rotate them around really quick.
That's true.
Oh, cool!
So
I didn't know that actually.
Without having to get the teleport B.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you lost control of the character, so I didn't even try. That's awesome.
You can move them a little bit there. They move so quickly that I had troubles trying to navigate them precisely.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those where if there's a slight bend, I was able to hit that bend, but if it's any more complicated, then I wasn't able to teleport. But it would be really cool to see some of the speed runs here that figure out like this really optimal place to teleport, and they have to like navigate their character through this really perilous zigzag or whatever to do that.
Yeah, back at Summers, we learned that there's a kraken that is like halting all the ships going out, and at some point we catch wind. We go into like a secret club, not a secret club, but you need to call the club in order to get access.
Yeah,
and...
actually, we're gonna do that right now.
Oh, okay.
Stoic Club.
I thought we had already done that, but for whatever reason, I don't remember how we got tipped off. But we need to come back and to Fourside, and we delve into a location there. It's the museum. I remember.
Yeah. So there's a museum in Summers, and there's maybe like a rival museum I think they're rivals in Forsen, and he gets a call and he's like, "Oh, what did this guy want to show me in this museum? Oh well." And so you can go over there.
Right.
And you'll find out that there is something under the sewers, and that will be the 5th sanctuary location, and it's a giant plague rat.
Yeah.
So we've killed him. And now we go to the Stoic Club, and that's kind of where we meet this woman who sells magic cakes.
Magic cakes.
By the way, if someone in a place like this is selling you magic cakes, you might want to look up the reviews. Always take it. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Alamaxia, what happens when you take the magic cakes?
You magically fall unconscious, and we suddenly, like Jeff, are in a completely different place with a completely new character that we've never met before, and his name is Pooh.
Pooh.
Prince Pooh.
Yeah, it's like the kind of name that when you're a kid, when you get to name your characters, you'd be like, I'm going to name it Pooh. But nope, that's his actual name. And it's kind of like a Eastern themed area over here. And he's like a karate style, trainee, and he's learning and trying to just master his art. And he seems like a big hit with ladies. They're all like, "Oh, I love Pooh. He's so cute." And you talk to your master there, and he's like, "Go to the high mountain or whatever, and seek that out for your training." And then here, as you sit at the top of this mountain or whatever, somebody comes out and says, "Hey, master said to report to him." And you're like, "Okay," and you can go down, and then you talk to him, And if you leave, you talk to the master, and he's like, "I have nothing to say. Go back to your training."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Huh." And it's another one of those things where you just have to wait there for like 30 seconds.
Yep.
And then you have one heck of a strange, like, out-of-body experience with
your master.
Some sort, yeah, master. Yeah. Is it him, actually?
I think so.
Sorry, I
think it's
kind of figured it was like some sort of ancestor or something. And he basically asks you these questions. You can say yes or no. And he's like, "I'm going to break your arms. Is that okay?" And you're like, "Oh, boy." Or break your legs. And now I'm going to break your arms. And then I'm going to take it, like, gouge out your eyes.
Gouge out your eyes.
And then you stop being able to see. And he like takes away your hearing as well. All the sound stops. It's really cool how they do it. But you just keep saying yes, and then you wake up, and it's like, you passed the test. You've completed your training. So go back and talk to him.
I failed my test the first time because I did not. I said, "No, you can't break my legs."
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't say no at all.
Yeah. By the way, can we talk about this dude with a phone on his head? So they'll put phones, again, the phone is the way that you can save your game, and they'll put phones in kind of silly ways. So there's an NPC that literally has just a phone on top of his head.
Yeah.
And I think when you call your dad, he even kind of mentions that it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, I think they kind of like tried to disguise it as hair. Like, I think it's supposed to be hair, but he still functions as a phone. So they kind of like integrate it that way. But yeah.
I also love that when you save, you can choose to continue or end your game. And if you say continue, he's like, "You're a hard worker, just like your mom." So I think that was, I don't know, for some reason that kind of made me laugh, just because he's like, "Good job, yeah, keep playing."
Yeah, he's like, "I don't approve, but this is all. I understand the whole saving the world from destruction thing." So, anyways, goodbye. Click.
Well, so you could technically, if you're strong enough after that whole incident, you can take some magic cakes and bring it to the ferryman. By the way, the ferryman's like married, I think, to the magic cake lady. And so he'll take you down into the ocean with his boat, but you'll be attacked by a kraken. And so what I did is I went back to the Pooh's hometown. Is it Dalaran or something like that?
Dalam.
Dalam.
Yeah.
And there is another My Sanctuary location here. So, there's a little dungeon. You can level up a little bit more. And so this is the 5th one. I have no idea what's happening here. Did anyone want to guess what this monster is? It's called Thunder and Storm.
Yeah, it's a very lightning-based place, and it's all kind of like elementals and genies and those sorts of enemies. A pretty rough spot, but that Franklin badge comes in handy because you can reflect a lot of that stuff. And I remember when I got here, a lot of the bosses, if you just go all out and try and immediately rush them down, they'll die pretty quick, and they're not too bad. And this one was that for me. However, I did find some very good grind methods, and I didn't want to over-level, but whenever I got new party members, I would go and kind of grind them up. I don't know if you guys found any of the caterpillars. The caterpillar?
I did one. I think it just one.
Okay. Yeah, so they're like a rare spawn in certain spots, but you can manipulate them to spawn, and then you can they'll always run away from you pretty much, and you just back attack them, and it's like, boom, 20k XP, easy. And so you just like find a spot where other enemies aren't a risk, and you just go back and forth until you see a caterpillar spawn, and then boom, huge XP.
That's cool.
So I did that to catch up my party, and if I felt a little weak, I would do that too. So didn't have too much problem with that like bunny dungeon or whatever.
Yeah, because one of the weird things is when you get a new party member, they don't level it up to what the rest of your party members are. So, Paula comes in at effectively level 1. Jeff, they do a little bit of a combat before they join the party. So Jeff, you'll level him up a little bit, but like my character SMG was probably like level 30 or 40 when Jeff joined, and Jeff was like level 6. But they do level up pretty quickly, but that's if you keep them alive,
Yeah, that's the problem.
So we just went through our little boat ride with the ferrymen, and we have destroyed the Kraken, which was preventing ships from passing down to this next city. And this is kind of like I don't know, like a desert Egyptian type thing, because there's a bunch of pyramids and stuff. But anyone remember and there are some hieroglyphics as well. Does anyone remember what the name of this town is?
Scaraba. Like scarab
That's
with
right.
an A.
Oh yeah. Scaraba. Yeah.
By the way, I wonder why they stopped with the number, naming the towns after the numbers. Like after town number 4, they just kind of gave that up. Maybe that's the joke. I don't know.
I think
it's
yeah. Go ahead.
I think it's supposed to be the joke that they didn't put too much thought into the names of things because they wanted to put more into the depth of things. Like they kind of they just call it in like a one at Tucson, 3, 4 side. But then it's like, oh, you're going to the cold place. That should be winters. Oh, you're going to the hot place. That should be summers.
Okay, fair enough.
And now you're going to an Egyptian place. There's a lot of scarabs.
Scarab. Yeah.
But we found this area called the Sphinx, and or we found an area with the Sphinx, and you see these 5 telltale buttons there. And I think I might have needed a hint here. I can't remember if someone tips you off to going to back to one of the other exhibits, which is an Egyptian themed museum, and you can find a tablet, I believe, which shows the order in which you step on the button.
There's like some hieroglyphs on one of the displays, and you take a photo, and that gives you the guide. You're also drawing out a star. I think one of the NPCs nearby mentions that you draw a star.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
And I had gotten that all before I came here, so I didn't have to backtrack. But I don't know. Maybe I was a little bit more thorough in just investigating everything. But yeah, there's a lot of like kind of open, paths where you can do something before another thing or not, and that's cool too.
But once you open up that Sphinx, you get to go into effectively a big a tomb, right?
You're in the pyramid.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the pyramid. And the pyramid is actually quite large. We're going to burn through most of this pretty quickly, but effectively there is a sarcophagus in, we'll call it the center.
Yeah.
And then you go down one very, very long path, step on a pressure plate, and that slides the sarcophagus away. And now you can jump down into a room, and you get the Hawkeye.
Yeah.
My inventory was full when I tried to pick it up, so I had to.
I like it whenever your inventory is full. It mentions it's like, you would love to get this, but you don't have any room.
Yeah.
I think this one was actually really funny because it said like, you made it this far only to come and try to get it with your inventory full. Now, unfortunately, our buddy Pooh here has decided to go. So
he had to go get the rest of his training with his master.
That's right.
Suddenly appeared out of nowhere.
Star Master, I think, is his name, and he's like, I got to teach Pooh the knowledge of Star Storm, and you're like, oh, okay. I expect him to be gone for a long time, but he comes back not too much later. In the meantime,
we get to do Brick's Dungeon.
We get to do Brick Road's Dungeon, which we didn't mention him before, and I had forgotten about this NPC, but when you first get Jeff, you walk through this kind of, it's like a little
maze.
A little maze, and there's an NPC who's like, man, my wish is to become a dungeon man, and you're like, okay, dude, like what? And then later, now we've found a giant statue, like moving, I don't know, stone mech thing, and it is a dungeon man, and he's got a bunch of messages down, and they're all commenting on like making commentary on the design of dungeons, and like here's where I thought that you could stay and rest and this and that sort of thing. And then he's got like a little zoo of enemies. But yeah, are there even fights in here? I don't remember.
There are. Yeah,
Okay.
Fights in here. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I love Dungeon Man because he's got this. When he moves, he kind of like moves his body side to side, so he's like kind of dancing. He's a cute guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dr. Andot's that's the name I was trying to remember for Jeff, his father.
Yeah.
We talked about him. So here's Dungeon Man kind of walking around, and he's following us, and he's gonna get stuck on some palm trees. And I love this because
the wackiness.
Right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And he's just like, hey, you probably want to go get yourself a submarine.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, this is great. This guy's like, hey, do you want to go through this really treacherous journey to, through this poisonous swamp here, even though it's a really stupid idea? And you're like, yes. He's like, are you
Absolutely.
serious? Okay.
Yeah.
Go get yourself a submarine. And sure enough, Dungeon Man, he's prepped for any occasion, and you find yourself a submarine. And I think even the note says, so it's a yellow submarine.
Oh yeah,
and I think it even says like, yeah, it just happened to be yellow.
it's just coincidence. Yeah,
just coincidence, right?
Yeah. So
obviously referencing the Beatles song.
Right. And Jeff manages to fix up the submarine, and then you take that and go to, what's this location even called? It's like Swamp of Darkness or something.
Deep Darkness.
Deep Darkness, yeah. And there's some dark patches. It's so funny because, I think it seemed like we kind of did the same thing. I was traversing it, and I was like, okay, there's dark areas. Part of me would just figured that the Hawkeye would automatically be active.
It just work,
yeah.
Itself,
so I just started going through, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I probably don't need to be blindly doing this, and use it on the overworld, and then you never have to use it again, and you can see no problem. Did either of you guys sniff up some magic truffles here?
I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't. I found I got the nose, but I couldn't find it. So did you?
I did. There's
what do the truffles do?
There's a vendor, one of those shady vendors who's like, anybody looking? All right, buy quick. And right by him, like you would use the nose, and it would say, there seems to be a truffle nearby. So it's one of those kind of like triangulate, and you keep moving and use it again. And the magic truffle, I think it restores like 60 PP or something. So it's like really good compared to the rest of the items. But I only sniffed out one. I checked it out, and I was like, okay, cool. I held on to it until later. But this area kind of, I think it seems worse than it is because you're trudging through like really slow, like you're practically underwater as you're moving through the swamp, and you'll take damage, but it's very slight. And then there's some strong crocodile enemies and stuff. But you explore it, and
we got Pooh back. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, Pooh arrives back.
Yeah, but he makes one heck of an entrance.
He does, yeah, because we fight Master Barf. Was that his name, Master Barf?
It's just Belch, Master Belch. It was the
Master Belch.
It's the same Belch.
I thought it said.
But now he calls himself Barf.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And it's not a super difficult, but at least for me it wasn't. But there, it was starting to get to the wire, and then Pooh arrives and he casts his new ability, Starstorm, which is just so much damage at this point.
Yeah. So he basically like flies into the fight with that, and does that. So at least on mine, that was what was the killing blow for the boss.
I think it was for
that
me
the same
too.
For you?
Yeah. It's probably just an HP threshold, and it does like a range, but the range is like it's such a high damaging spell that finishes them off.
Now, what did you guys think of Pooh? I was not a huge fan because he's got some interesting abilities, but I just felt him kind of like mediocre and everything. What did you guys think of his loadout?
Yeah, he had like this mimic ability where he would turn into one of the other enemies, which didn't work very often or very well, and you weren't able to control him again for like the rest of the battle. So I just used him as a nuke. Like whenever I just needed to do some damage, just throw Starstorm at it.
Starstorm was great, and I would usually just use the max tier of Ice. He gets teleport version B, which is a little easier to manage, and he also has healing, which is super nice. I think he got res before Ness for me.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
And he also has a different type of shield than the others.
Oh yeah, he does. Right. He does physical shield, I think.
Yeah.
And Paula would do magic shield because the text is actually different, and you're like, oh okay. So yeah, he had some handy stuff. But he wasn't very good if you didn't have the PP and you were just meleeing. He was kind of lackluster. So I'd usually dump like my important use items, like my res items and stuff, on him and my restores, and then I would just use that on the party when needed.
Now, in this area where we are, which we're down in Stonehenge now, one thing that's important to point out is Pooh cannot equip anything except for this one armor, this one bracer, this one accessory. But there is a weapon that he can use, and it's a weapon that you have to steal from, or not steal, but you have to get as a rare drop from Starman Super, which is a rare enemy in Stonehenge.
Yeah, I farmed for it for a bit, but I ultimately I didn't want to overlevel too hard. All of his equipment is like of kings, and it's like I think it was Sword of Kings, and it's a 1 in 128 chance. I did use a guide pretty freely here and there, as I didn't want to spend too much time like lingering, and so I saw that. So I farmed. I found a pretty good farm strat, but I did about 40 superstar men, and I was like, all right, I'm moving on.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
What was kind of lame is he, I guess the idea is he's a monk, so he's, using his fists to fight.
Right.
But his offense was significantly lower than Paula, and Paula is your caster, at least in my party. I mean, in my situation based on the leveling. So it was like even his fists would do less damage than my caster's melee. I was like, that's just he's not great. But maybe the sword changes that. Maybe that makes it amazing.
There's probably just something that we're really missing with how he can transform into enemies. Like there's probably something where it's like this makes him like the most OP character.
Yeah. Well, we didn't mention it, but go ahead.
One of the fights you can, and I use this a little bit. There was a guy that will do full restores of party members, and so occasionally I'd mirror him, and then sometimes I'd randomly heal my.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll try to point it out if we get there. But yeah, go ahead, Lobos.
Oh, I did try to mirror a few times, and I actually never got it to work. So I just must have used it on the wrong enemies. So I stopped trying.
Yeah, it's not super great.
Yeah, but before we went down to Stonehenge, we visited a village of interesting little green shy
tendas.
Yeah, they're called tendas. And Tenda Village is there's one guy, there's the Tenda chief who just says, oh, everybody's shy. And then there's one Tenda who's like, man, I'm not shy, I'm different. I'm unique. And but if you want to unshy everybody, maybe I think there's a book that the chief mentions. I think there's a book of overcoming shyness or something like that we could use, and that could help everybody. So you managed to grab that. I think it's in the library in Tucson.
I think that's right.
And you just have to search the bookshelves, and you manage to find it. Or actually, somebody had borrowed. Oh no! It does wind up.
Yeah, no. Someone borrowed it, and then they were missing. But then I think you learned somehow that it was in a shelf, or they returned it, or something like that.
Yeah. So you give it back to the tendas, and the chief teaches everybody, and now they all can talk, and they're not shy anymore. And then you go to the one who was unique, and he's like, I don't have a purpose anymore because I don't have an identity. He says I lost my identity, I think. Because he's not the not shy one anymore. But
maybe he could be the shy one, and then he's got
there you go
now a purpose.
Yeah.
But that was all in service of getting this strong Tenda to move a rock, and then you push that down. We just killed the boss of the 7th sanctuary location, and now we're looking at like a screen here.
Scrolling marquee.
Like one of those. Yes. Yeah.
scrolling marquee on the wall with there's like very clear pixels, and it's like it's reading Ness's mind and putting his thoughts on the wall, and it's I would say that like from this point the game starts to get even weirder. But I love the next section. I thought it was really cool, even if the enemies were a bit annoying. But
yeah.
I
will say in terms of the combat. So, we go to this sort of tribal, I think of like 20,000 BC style thing from Chrono Trigger or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Where there's a bunch of dinosaurs, but everything after this, I felt like combat was maybe a little too swingy for its own good. Like your characters are either dying all the time or just annihilating the enemies all the time, and it really just kind of seemed like a dice roll. So I think maybe lost a little bit of its luster near the end game for me.
There's definitely like
in terms of the
difficulty jump, like right after this.
Enemies just start hitting really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
this is where you really have to exploit or really take advantage of that scrolling HP bar. Where, if something hits you enough to where it's like they're gonna fall unconscious, like we said, you gotta quickly go through and like I gotta throw any heal on them, just quickly throw a heal on them.
Yeah.
So earlier we were talking about going back for the sanctuary stones. This is the spot. There's this little talking rock here in this village. I can't tell who is manning the village, if it's Tendas, because everything's very, very small. And
they're Tendas. They're Tendas. Because he said that at some point, other Tendas left here, I think, and now they basically just lived in these little fenced off areas that keep them safe from the dinosaurs, even though they say that the dinosaurs are trapped outside of their fence.
That's right.
Their areas like tiny, and they're like, oh yeah,
we're not here.
They're fenced in.
You're outside of us.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you give them like, was it Tendacraut or basically some sort of smelly food, and they're like, oh yeah, come on, and then. But yeah, the talking rock there will give you. It's not super precise, but it basically says, all right, here's where all the 8 sanctuary locations are. And you need to go kill them. So I didn't know if you saw that, Lobos, and knew where you needed to go, or if you used a guide to figure that out.
Yeah, I think it was a mix of both. Because at this point, I still didn't know that I was missing one. Because we're about to head to the 8th, and we are in the video right now. The rock tells you the rock. The talking stone boulder tells you that the final sanctuary is to the southwest. So you start making your way there, and here we are. It's a big volcano, and it's this area was very enemy dense, and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
it was rough."
This was,
and I think this is probably like one of the hardest bosses in the game, if not the hardest. This what was it? Is it Carbon Dog?
It's a Carbon Dog.
Carbon Dog, and he does a bunch of AoE fire. He just hits really hard. I think he debuffs the party. I think he can like insta kill, and then after you deal enough damage, he becomes Diamond Dog, or maybe that's when he starts doing those things. He shields a lot. It's a tanky fight, and it's a rough area. No pun intended.
Diamond Dog will straight up reflect your damage.
Oh yeah, that too.
Melee damage. So at this point, I kind of burnt through much of my psi power, and so because ideally, you come in here with a full amount of psi, and you just nuke the Diamond Dog, because that won't reflect the magic back at you. But yeah, I just kind of had to sit there and face tank the physical damage coming back at me. And that's the 8th Sanctuary Stone. Look at that.
I can't remember with that one if you use a bottle rocket, if it reflects that back at you also.
Good question.
But
I don't remember.
But I know I mentioned this before, and we talked a little bit about bottle rockets. There's 3 different types of bottle rockets you can get, and the biggest one you get is like a triple bottle rocket or something.
Multi rocket. I think
it one shots bosses. like it just straight up does like 3,000 damage.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did not expect that, and
I didn't find any of those.
Oh, I only found one. And
You
I can't
buy
remember which
them.
boss it was, but I just really, oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
So the guy that looks like Mr. T, he's the guy that sells like anything that's explosive or gun like. So he's basically Jeff's vendor. The one that's in Fourside sells multi-bottle rockets. So you could just fill Jeff's
That's
inventory with them, and you just mow through boss. It's great.
Yeah.
But then
And one thing I wanted to
go.
real quick, and then we'll let you jump over to this area here. One thing I wanted to mention is I believe that the game originally came with like a big strategy guide.
Mm-hmm.
I think it came with the game. I can't remember if it came with the game but yeah, it was like it's like 100 pages walkthrough. I wish I had one of those, but those are multi-$100 now. So,
which is amazing. This is a game that back when it came out, like I said, you wouldn't have appreciated it when you were a kid, and the public didn't either. So this was like $5 at Best Buy with bins and bins of them.
Oh man,
bins of them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Time machines. Why don't you guys?
But after getting that last shining spot, Ness kind of isn't after that. He kind of has this entire out of body, out of mind, or something experience where we go to Magicant.
In of mind, really.
In of mind, yeah.
Yeah, this is his whole like dream world, basically.
This place was by far the hardest place in the game for me, and it's
same.
And it's because I forgot something other than the Casey bat, so I only had that on Ness.
Oh no!
And I didn't have the Franklin badge, which this is an area that like everything does lightning damage. So I had to spend about an hour and a half just grinding on the enemies in this area to gradually work my way through it. It was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, I was legitimately wondering why you had difficulty, because I was like, this is one of the easiest.
Whoa.
But I had a different bat and I had the Franklin badge, so yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I had both of those. I had a good bat and Franklin badge, and it was really tough for me. Like, I was again, it was the mischance, and you know what? Maybe I did have the bad bat. No, because you get a bat in this area, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, yeah, like
you
would fight
bat from a Kraken.
I'm not sure. But like, there's an encounter that's a little dice guy, and it took me about 2-3 turns to kill him with just bash if it didn't crit, and then he would summon and summon, and that's all he did was summon, and I would end up in a battle against 7 things, and you can get a little like companion. What is his name? Flying man. Yeah, and he's like a bird man basically, and he'll auto attack on his own. He's not that great, but he helps. And there's a second section that's full of Krakens. I actually just skipped all of them, walked all the way around, and was like, oh, I'm not doing this. And there's a boss at the end. It's a Mani statue, and he's basically got all the same abilities you have, and you dispose of him, and learn that you need to head to Saturn Village, where maybe Apple Kid they've just about finished with the, what is it called? Phase
distorter.
Phase distorter. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a missing piece.
There's a missing piece. Was stolen by Pokey, I think. Something like that.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so you need to go back to Onett after all this time and collect a piece of the meteorite in order for Dr. Andonitz to study and then create the final piece needed for the phase distorter, which is ultimately how we're supposed to battle against Gygus, who we didn't really talk about this whole game, but also the game doesn't really talk about him very much.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because it just goes, oh, there's this prophecy that Ness will defeat Gygus, and Gygus is like the ultimate evil in the universe that will destroy everything. And you're like, okay.
Gygus wants to travel 10,000 years into the past and like eradicate the history of things, and it's like you gotta go beat him in the past.
Yeah. And this is where things get real, and Dr. Andonitz says, all right, the only way that you can fight Gygus is you have to go back into the past, and the only way we can do that is by transferring your souls into these robots, and you may not make it back. So, like, he'll even ask you, he says, is there, like, are you willing to do this? And I said no, and he said, well, I understand. Like, that totally makes sense. All that's left now is the destruction of our world. And it's like, oh my gosh, okay, I'll say yes. So you say yes, and yeah, your souls get transferred, and it's this final area of enemies, and you know they're
which is just, it's a nightmare. It's so dense.
It's pretty dense.
They will sometimes instant kill some of your party members.
Oh yeah, it's pretty brutal.
They have the like Starman seniors, and they'll just do the Starstorm ability, which will do like 300 points of damage to everyone in your party.
Yeah,
it's nasty, but. So we're at the final boss here, Gygas. There's multiple things going on. We're going to be spending the next probably 10 minutes on this fight because it is actually pretty intricate. So we can talk about anything we want to here, but let me pass it over to Almaxi and let us start us off with the final boss battle.
Pokey's back! So we start fighting Gygas, and for whatever reason, out of nowhere, Pokey is in here, and he's like, yeah, I'm kind of with this guy. And Pokey's not a robot, but he's in this weird organic alien tank-looking thing. And he's heavily armed. Gygas just reflects all of your attacks really back at them, so you can't really do much. So you just gotta focus on Pokey, and you just gotta figure out what the heck to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pokey is just saying how Gygas was harnessing the power of evil, but at this point, now Gygas has basically become pure evil. And he's not, Gygas isn't even really this, like, it's just the incorporeal consciousness that, at least in this part of the fight, doesn't really say anything to you. It'll start to speak to Ness later. I figured, I was mildly aware of the fight, but not in detail. So I figured attack Pokey. That seemed like the right answer. Anyways, even though it says he's heavily armed, like it wasn't heavily armored. So it's like, oh, okay, all right. So you attack Pokey. Eventually he's like, whatever, Gygas is going to take care of you. And he backs out of the fight. And now you're just fighting this warping, terrifying nightmare of a thing. I can't even imagine if I played this when I was a kid. Like, I probably wouldn't have beat this game. I would have just stopped. Like, this is horrific. It's it's nightmare fuel. It's so, yeah. I mean, Geiger, it's very it's a very strange and disturbing fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's multiple phases here, but a lot of it is gonna revolve around making sure you keep Paula alive. Jeff and Pooh just kind of ate it right away for me, and so he's got this attack, and yeah, it says you cannot grasp the true nature of Gygas's attack, and it'll do multiple different things. Sometimes it'll just do damage. Sometimes it'll try to do electricity damage. Sometimes it will actually do instant kills. Yeah. I did have SMG get insta-killed once, which was crazy.
Oh, wow.
But that was because we're going to get to a spot here. Actually, we're at the spot now where Pokey is like, hey, you're going to die here. Feel free, call your mommy, call your daddy, call out to anyone that listens to you. No one's going to, and he kind of taunts you and then just leaves. And so at this point, you're fighting Gygas for, call it, round 3 or stage 3 of the boss fight. And I probably spent 20 minutes with SMG, because SMG is actually really powerful. When at some point you basically get like this massive level up, right? And now my guy's got like 700 hit points, 400 magic, which was a lot. But I looked it up because I was like, there's got to be, this fight's going on for 20 minutes. Like, there's got to be something I'm missing here. Alamaxi, was I missing something?
You were missing that Paula has an ability that you almost never use in the game.
Yeah.
Pray. You have to pray and reach out to people, just as she has prayed and reached out to you and Jeff. And Pooh.
Yeah.
Her prayer reaches across time and space, and
That's so cool.
yeah, it's like the people she reaches out to. You have to do this multiple times, like maybe 6, 7, 8
I think
times.
it's like 7,
Yeah.
something like that.
And each time it's a different group of people that you've encountered on your journey, and they're like, huh. They just kind of get a little bzz, like spidey sense, like, oh, something's up with Paula, or something's up with Ness or Jeff, depending on who they knew. And it says they start to pray for you. So it's like using this power across dimensions to, and each time you do this, Gygas will take some damage and take more and more damage. And it's like, okay, so keep Paula up, let her pray. Which, by the way, I don't think we talked about it, but I used it a couple times in the main game, and it can AoE heal your party, but it can also heal the enemies too.
It did really bad stuff to
Yeah. So I did a couple times, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna do that. But the funny thing is, the way that I ended up figuring it out was Paula got paralyzed, and so her only options were do nothing, sigh, which I didn't have any PP at that point, and then pray. And so I was like,
cool.
I'm going to pray, and it worked. So like, I don't know if that was like something that was kind of an eventuality that she would get stunned, but yeah, it just worked out that way, and it made a lot of sense.
One of the things that's really funny, and you'll see this in the video, is as long as she gets to her turn and starts praying before her hit points hit 0, it goes through.
Oh.
So I think I had like 2 or 3 situations where Paula is basically unconscious during this little pray sequence here.
Wow. Yeah, and the more Gygas takes damage, he starts to whisper kind of into your party's ears, and it's like, there's no hope, just bringing you down in all sorts of just horrible ways.
It's kind of this dread feeling.
It's very dreadful, yeah. It's just, there's no hope, like, I will destroy everything, and it's just, the background keeps updating, and it's just this undulating sort of face that you can pick out of this, almost like liquid, and it's very disturbing. And the music too. The music is very much of note because it starts off and it's kind of like, it's almost like a kind of like a retro NES song, and it's like do 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 do, and then it goes into like death metal, and you're like, what? And then this last section has just this droning, like waning while all this stuff is happening.
Sounding.
Yeah. And so you get few moments of reprieve as Paul is praying, and it kind of plays some different music that's a little more upbeat, and then you come back to the and it's just it's a whole disturbing experience.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then again, it's a great way to kind of reminisce of all the different places you've been to and stuff like that. Frank, the I guess first boss we defeated, he's actually praying for us, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We saw, we were at Saturn Valley, we saw Jeff's friends, and now we're seeing our mom, who is touched by Paula's prayer, and she's gonna pray for us with your sister, and I think King the dog even comes over and is praying for us, so that's great.
Yeah, I think this is also where it does like the most damage. Like at this point, it's ramped up, and it's gonna
start doing thousands of points of damage on Gygas there.
Yeah.
So this was, an interesting way to kind of close out the fight. It's less of a. Honestly, it really is just keep Paula alive, which is kind of cool. Like, it's not. It wasn't intuitive for me, but I do like the idea of almost like a different mechanic for the boss battle here.
Yeah. And here they do something interesting because you pray and it says Paula's prayer was absorbed by the darkness. And so at that point I started trying different things. But later down in the line I did try praying again, and then it happens to work. So kind of an interesting way to just go like, oh, you don't do this anymore, but then you actually do. So
you gotta power through the darkness there.
And eventually
it's cool, like
you.
Oh yeah, you the person playing the game.
Oh
right?
yeah, that's
because
right.
At some point in the game, you had to like put in, like, what is your name?
Yeah.
And so it's like
Right.
she reaches out to you, and it's like, oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah, it's the
The
whole
fourth
thing.
wall does not exist.
Yeah. So yeah, and at some point I was reading the guide, and when I came to that point where you put in your name, and it says very important, like for the sake of the story, like actually put your actual name, because at this point now it'll say Lobos kept praying, and it's like because it like dashes out it kind of filters and puts one letter at a time and jumps around, so you can kind of get the idea. And then at the end, it's like Lobos kept praying, and so it's like will.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
I did think it was weird. Like halfway or like 3/4 through the game, they're like, "Are you sure this is your name?" But I think for me, they auto-filled the name of your character there, so I'm just like, "Yeah, it's SMG." That's what I put at the beginning. So I didn't pick up on that, but I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And when you pray for SMG, or you pray for Ness and Paula, that is enough to do a lot of damage to Gygus, and more or less the defeat of that boss there. Pokey's still alive though.
Yeah, Pokey's like, all right, well, I'm out now because I was with this dude, and now you well, yeah, we'll meet again, but bye. And however Pokey is doing all this. Maybe we learn in Mother 3, but... And then there's this,
one of these days we'll get
one
it,
of these
right?
days.
One of these days. Yeah,
this whole staticky
So this
experience.
looks like I know this looks like one of those where back when you used to have cable TV and maybe a channel didn't come in, or you just a bunch of static. It's just crazy things happening.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Gygus is weird. Very very interesting boss, because I think you mentioned like they don't really talk too much about him. He just kind of come out of nowhere. It's like, all right, cool. Here's the end boss. Go kill him. And he's not like taunting you throughout the game.
Yeah. Well, they really don't give it much of a like personality, except at the end where it starts just saying like I'm so sad, and like Ness. It's just like saying such weird, disturbing stuff. It's really just some sort of entity. But Paula knew this whole time that the party needed to get together, and there were other people who were like, "Yep, this needs to happen." And there's a prophecy that Ness would take out Gygus, and for sure, surely enough, you fulfill that. And then at the end here, Pooh disappears.
Pooh teleports up.
Yeah.
I love he also says, "Oh, here's an ability I learned as a child," and you're like, "Well, I wish you would have told me, because
Psi farewell.
It's pretty useful." Psi farewell.
Psi farewell. Yeah.
Now Paula asks you to take her home, and you can say yes or no. And I said yes, but I'm curious if you say no, do you not take her home, or does she make you take her home?
That's a good question. I'm not sure either. Yeah.
But who got the warm fuzzies like coming back home? Like, you've done all this, and in some ways, Lord of the Rings, like Samwise, he goes to Mount Doom, comes back, and he's back in the Hobbitville, or the Shire. I felt like kind of the same way. It's like you did all this stuff, and you just go back to your mom, and you go have pizza and go to bed.
Back to being a normal kid after saving the world in a time traveling weird adventure.
Yeah, really.
And now it's time to go do your homework.
Yeah, did you guys do New Game Plus? Not New Game Plus, but it's funny because you wake up in almost the same way that the game started originally.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
So we got that. So we got our Patreon again. Thank you so much to all the Patreon supporters for quite literally making this episode possible, hitting our milestone. What a blast this was! And so here's the little epilogue here. Lobos, please continue.
Oh yeah, it plays out very similarly to the beginning of the game. I think there's banging at the window or banging at the door, and you go downstairs to check it. And I don't remember if it's Pokey or Picky, but there's like basically they cliffhanger you of like Pokey's back or something. Oh, it is Picky. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, my brother's waiting for you, or something like that. And then
he gives you a letter. Yeah. come and get me, loser. Spankety, spankety, spankety. And then I think it's like to be continued? Question mark.
Yeah.
So,
the end dot. Yeah.
Question.
Oh, man, what a special game, though. That's I really had no idea what to expect here, and I was very pleasantly surprised. For me, I had a fear that, like sometimes there's a game that people talk about so much, they hype it up so much, and then we get to it, it's just kind of like mediocre, or you know, you heard about so much, you're kind of sick of it before even playing it. But
yeah, for sure.
I came in here and I was like, wow, this is really special. It's cool. It's serious, but it's also not serious at all. And it's got RPG mechanics, but they're not so stringent. Like you can kind of have fun there, the bottle rockets and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's overall not too tough of a game.
It's a cool game.
It's a good experience. Cool.
And I know Alamaxia, you said like, oh, how are we going to do this in 2 hours? I know Alamaxia, you could probably go on for 3 or 4.
There's so much we glazed over.
There was a lot.
Gush anything you want to talk about right now. This is your moment.
I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Yes.
We've already kind of talked about the music. The music alone is worth playing this game. And if you don't have time to play this game, just pull up the music on YouTube. It is what they did with the Super Nintendo and how great they made some stuff sound. Like we talked about the Runaway Five. It's good. It has all this nice little funky jazz going on with it. There's different areas that you can just get your HP back. Like in Dr. Andonut's lab, there's like this HP refilling capsule that you see inside of Brick Road later on.
Yep. We're just watching the... I love these too, because we were watching the credits, and it's got all of the characters, or a good portion of the characters, with their names, and they're kind of dancing around or emoting around. So I love that too, right? More games should have that type of stuff. And then after this, it's going to show you another credit sequence of the developers, and that's where it shows you the pictures. We didn't have a lot of those in the video of our, us getting our picture taken, but at pivotal moments in the game, and that we talked about that earlier, the picture dude would come and take your picture, and so we'll see some of those photos here when we get to the credits. But
I have a theory that guy is actually Ness's dad. I have a theory.
Oh, that's a good... I didn't even think about
Star Master?
that. No, the picture.
Oh,
dude.
the picture guy. Oh,
that makes so much sense, because there's always that stereotype of like the father just sitting there with the video camera.
Right? Yeah, that makes sense.
You should look that. I should look that up. You should everyone should look that up if that's, because I really think you're onto something there.
I also invite you to go back and put your mind in the gutter whenever you're calling your mom.
Oh, man.
And just read between the lines on those. You pick up an entirely different message.
That's great. Lobos, the closing thoughts from you on this
phone.
game.
Dad's the phone, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Dad is a phone,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it lived up to the hype, I would say. It's such I feel like wholesome, outside of the very dreary ending. The whole game, I think, can be summed up as wholesome. Like every NPC you meet is like more or less like good-natured, except Pokey, and they're just living their lives, and you get to experience that, and in their own unique ways. And
Can I just interrupt real quick here? Because I think this is really cool. We talked about the picture taker, who throughout the game takes pictures of you and your party, or Ness and the party. But the closing there, we just saw the picture dude comes out and he takes a picture of you, the player. I was like, oh, that's a perfect way to wrap that up.
And right at the end, you just sit there and you're like, fuzzy pickles. Put your finger.
Yeah. Now, what would be creepy is if they actually had a photo of you at the end. Like,
hook up your Game Boy camera and
no, like without that, there's just a photo, and you're from some like strange angle, like above you, and you're like, wait, what? But no, I don't think I saw any of that.
Wow, I tell you what, folks, 2-hour episode. That's a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel talked out. Like, I know there's still a lot more to talk about, but my brain is ceased to exist or ceased to function now. I don't know how you guys are, but I'm assuming that we're about the wrapping up point here.
Yeah.
So if there's any last minute things you guys want to blurt out, we can do so. Otherwise, we can move on.
If you play this, click and look at everything, even benches, signs, everything. There's so much fun detail. One of my favorite pieces of fun detail, when you look at a hotel sign, it's like $50 a night. It will actually change the price depending on how many people are in your group. So if it's just Ness, it's $50. And if you bring in like Ness, Paula, and Jeff, $150. So it's just like, it's
interesting.
Those little details.
So good. They could have just said $50 per person.
Right, per person per
night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I definitely would be interested in a Mother 3, and I almost want to go and do like Mother 1. Like, what is that about?
Yeah.
Because this is a sequel, or I don't know if it's a direct sequel or what. I honestly don't know much about the series.
I think on the Switch NES, the virtual NES, there is Mother 1.
Okay. Nice.
Well, that's going to wrap up Earthbound. Woo. What a blast. Thank you, everyone. But the show doesn't end here. Well, this show ends here, but there's going to be a next month there, so...
And I just can't wait for this next game.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, we played one of the greatest on the Super Nintendo, so... I say we play the king of games on the Genesis.
Right. Oh, yeah. I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited.
Yeah, me too, because in June we're going to be taking a look at The Lion King.
Oh, boy.
Only the third Genesis game we've covered. We just, out of 55 episodes, it'll be number 3, so we got to get more Genesis games in the mix there, but I'm excited.
4?
Was it 4?
We did Earthworm Jim. Home Alone,
Shining Force, Home Alone. Oh, the Home Alone. Forgot about that on the doubleheader.
Didn't we do Echo? Yeah.
Maybe 5. Okay, so 1 in 11 games. That's a much better ratio.
There you go.
And 0 Virtual Boy games. What are we even doing?
Oh man, Water World. Let's go. No, don't. No.
Well, yeah, that's going to be in June, but sadly we have reached the end credits of this episode and wanted to thank again everyone so much for listening to us on the podcast or watching us on YouTube.
And be sure to give us that like, subscribe, thumbs up on Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Just make sure you let us know that you like the show.
If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter, SaturdayMGaming. Yeah, and if you're listening to us on any sort of platform that allows you to rate us, please do so, like the people have said. And what else we got here? Oh, yeah. Special shout out to Technoax for much of the music on this episode.
For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Alamaxia.
And I'm Lobos.
I'm the Fat Wizard. We'll see you in June with The Lion King for the Genesis.